The average person is said to spend 15 minutes in the bathroom. Why not take advantage of that time and learn something new? Presenting the 15-minute podcast on weird facts, crazy details, and funny particulars that you'll be able to enjoy while you're taking a on your free time. Welcome to The Shit with Sam Butler. Welcome to another episode of The Shit Podcast. I'm glad to have you guys back with us. I have a very special guest. A lot of y'all might not know him, but he's very popular in Mexico City and surrounding areas. He, former stand-up comedian, you were telling me? Former?
Yes, for a little while.
For a little while.
I tried.
You tried?
I wasn't that funny.
Well, it happens to, and that I respect the fact that you said, okay, this is not for me, and moved on to something that you're really good at. And that's photography.
Yeah.
You're known in Mexico and different areas for photographing a lot of the biggest comedians on stage, off stage. And so it's a pleasure having you here. You've been here in Ciudad Juarez doing some photo shoots with different individuals.
Yeah, and we're about to do one.
Yeah. I'm not taking my clothes off, but
yet.
Not yet. Hey, but that's for y'all. I'm not taking it off for your safety. It's like,
they might get turned on. You never know.
No, it's going to be like those kids in Japan that were watching the bright lights and everybody got epilepsy.
They were watching Pokemon. Actually, that episode, I haven't seen it yet. I really want to. I want to feel the rush. Yeah. I want to feel like Jorge feels when he takes.
They say it does. I guess like I was a kid when they figured that out that a lot of flashing lights could cause epileptic seizures. That's pretty. It's
like photosensitive people.
That's insane because I grew up in the 90s. I grew up in between 85 and 95. I'm one of those kids that's stuck in the middle, right?
Okay.
It wasn't like 1990 to. I think decades are weird, anyways. I think 85 to 95 was the same. I think 95 to 2005 was more of the same, Yep. 2005 to 2015 was more of this. It's like, I think the decades should be broken up different,
Right in the middle, but you get to see most of the downfalls instead of the rising of stuff.
Yeah.
You saw the downfall of grunge music.
Yeah. Yeah, because it, started in the real early 90s, and then by 95, Tupac and Biggie were gone. Yep. I mean, everybody. So you start to see, it's like that generation, right? So that was discovered when I was a kid, when I was like probably 13, 14 years old, that the lights would cause epileptic seizures. Also, something that was a big deal was peanut allergies.
I
remember that. I had never heard of anybody having a peanut allergy. And then next thing you know, peanut allergies were everywhere.
Just like gluten. Everyone's allergic to gluten. And
gluten. Gluten, I think that's a 2015 thing, right? Like
2010?
2010, it started like gluten allergies. And you're going like, what's going, where is this?
What's gluten?
Yeah, what's gluten, first of all?
To begin with, what? Because I know peanut. I don't know gluten.
Yeah.
I don't know if it tastes good, but God bless Snickers.
Yeah. You like that?
I love those.
You love those. I'm a peanut guy. I eat peanuts, but you realize that there's peanut allergies and people can die from them. Yeah,
actually schools now have to get some like special pens to don't die.
Yeah. What do they call them? I want to say epidurals, but no, those are for pregnancies.
EpiPens.
EpiPens.
Yeah.
Yeah. But an epidural is for pregnancies, but
kids get pregnant
some
too.
Some schools need those too.
Yeah, that never changes.
That never changes. But so it's interesting, all the stuff that's developed. But we are gonna we were having tacos the other night, and we started talking about something that I had heard. And I couldn't believe, I was like, I can't believe I've never read this before. And we started talking, and I said, okay, this is going to be the shit episode. And
spread those cheeks. We're about to begin.
Yeah. We're going to talk about this.
We're going to get it out.
Yeah. And I decided to do this one in English because I feel that maybe some of this is taught in Mexican history, but I know it's not taught in American history.
Maybe not even in Mexican history.
So I think it's kind of a cool topic. We'll eventually do it in Spanish too. But I thought, okay, this is a cool topic to talk about in English that we can share with my friends that speak English, not only in Mexico, but in the United States, whoever listens to this, because it was a very fascinating thing to learn. And it all started with the conversation I was having with a friend that said that there was a letter from Hitler to Mexico.
Such a romantic guy.
Yeah, that said that he was asking permission to invade the United States through Mexico. And I thought, first of all, that makes sense. Second of all, that's weird that he'd ask permission. He didn't seem like the kind of guy that would ask for permission too much.
Maybe he liked us.
Yeah,
maybe.
He liked Paris. He liked Paris because he didn't destroy Paris.
Yeah, he just wanted a real good selfie with no one around.
With no one around.
With the Eiffel Tower. I'm going to invade this country because I really want that photo.
You know what happened? He was an artist. So
I remember.
Yeah, he was. You know, I had a comedian friend that said, you know, have you ever thought that if maybe they had supported him more in his art career, his parents, he maybe wouldn't have turned into Hitler. You know,
you have to be so heartbroken.
Yeah.
By stuff like that to take so many. I don't want to say bad decisions, but violent.
Yeah,
decisions.
He was angry. So more red.
Yeah.
You know? That's why everything's red in the Nazi symbolism. It's anger.
And actually, Hugo Boss was a designer.
Yeah, he would design all the Nazi uniforms. They look pretty cool, you know, but they were kind of scary at the same time, right?
Yeah, it's like you're so hot, but you also want to kill me.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't want to spread some red on those beautiful jeans you have.
Yeah, they were very intimidating uniforms, and even from the helmet, the Nazi war helmet to the uniform, it was pretty intimidating. The use of colors that they used was pretty like. It did have this. I looking back, I wasn't around back then, but it's intimidating.
Yeah, it's like
the swastika. It was a very intimidating symbol, and if you're going to take over the world, I would expect it to look like that.
And Germans are intimidating. I was surprised that they would write a letter.
Yeah.
Instead of we're here. You look cool. Go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, but we're going to talk about the Zimmerman telegram.
Zimmerman telegram.
Because I looked up the story that we talked about Hitler sending a message to Mexico, and it wasn't Hitler. It was in 1917 during the First World War.
Okay.
Right? Yes. They sent a telegram to Mexico, and this was what the telegram said. First of all, it was Arthur Zimmerman, that sent it. He was a top-level civil servant for the Foreign Office of the German Empire. January 17, 1917, the message was sent to German ambassador to Mexico, Heinrich von Echtart. Yep. So what happened is there was restrictions in warfare. Oh. And the Germans decided, nah, we're not going to listen to the restrictions. So they were going to start doing open submarine attacks. And this is 1917. Okay. First of all, I was shocked to find out there was war-able submarines in 1917. You have to understand that this is the First World War, and they had barely invented the tank.
Yeah, well, maybe it's not the submarines we picture, because we are like, okay, Pearl Harbor, huge submarines, huge Navy equipment, but maybe submarines back then were like really small, pretty, not so intimidating. Maybe they just wanted to try this new technology and might as well.
Well, it wasn't new. Submarines started in 1650. That's the thing.
We are learning, guys.
We are learning.
We are all learning.
The first versions of submarines were like just these housings that you'd go underwater and there was still oxygen, you can breathe. And then they came up with one, I think it was like the 1700s. It's called the Turtle, and it was a bubble and a guy's pedaling a bike inside of it, right? So submarines had been developed since the 1650s, and now we're in World War I, and they have developed the diesel submarine, which was the first time that they were using a submarine with diesel power, and that was because gasoline submarines would catch on fire all the time.
And the thing about Mexico is that back then, many companies had been extracting oil.
Yes.
So maybe he wanted the supply of the fuel and also being able to attack right on the border from the United States.
Well, this is what we're getting tight on time already. This is a really interesting subject, but I'm gonna put it in a nutshell. Zimmerman sends the telegram to the embassy in the United States. The embassy in the United States sends it to the embassy in Mexico. The English received it first through Germany to England, England to the U.S., U.S. to Mexico. The English break the code and find out what they're actually saying based on some old military codes. They were able, the naval codes, they're able to decipher it. What Germany wanted to do, since U.S. was neutral in World War I, and so was Mexico. Mexico was neutral. So what they wanted to do, they send it to Carranza, Venustiano Carranza, and they say, listen, if the U.S. decides to go into war, you need to come with us.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
We will give you back California, Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona.
Oh, okay.
When we win.
And
we'll give you cash. Lots and lots of cash. Several things happen. So this is a very tempting offer for Mexico, right? Okay, we go back to war with the U.S. Matter of fact, they had saboteurs, German saboteurs within Mexico, starting different conflicts with the U.S. And the U.S. actually invaded Yucatan in 1914.
Through Cuba?
No, they came to Yucatan directly.
From Miami?
Yeah.
From Florida?
I didn't check it. I'm assuming to the ocean. Yeah, the Yucatan Peninsula. And they came because it was a skirmish, right?
Yeah.
So let me see. I have the info. It was called they had aided arming Mexican in the 1914 Ipiranga incident. German naval intelligence officer Franz von Rintlen had attempted to incite war between Mexico and the United States in 1950, giving Victoriano Huerta $12 million for that purpose. So what the German strategy was if Mexico fights the U.S. and we back them, the U.S. is too busy to come to war in Europe. And what was happening was the U.S. wasn't necessarily in the war, but they were profiting from the war. They were manufacturing arms. They were manufacturing goods and services
with steel and
everything that they could do. So U.S. was like, we're neutral, but they were supplying Europe with arms.
Okay.
The Germans foresaw that their new open warfare policy in the ocean with submarines was going to create conflict with the U.S. because that's exactly what they were going to do. They were going to target U.S. merchant ships.
Oh, so they wouldn't get
the supplies.
The supplies in Europe, okay.
So the Zimmerman telegram pretty much was saying, listen, guys, if you join us, when we win, you get back your country, and we give you money. Now, how did Mexico respond? Well, Mexico was like, nah, we're good.
Yeah, it makes sense because if we would get into trouble with the U.S., I mean, Germany is all over the ocean.
Yeah.
We're their neighbors.
That's right. Well, and this was the thought process because it was very tempting. They thought about it for a minute. Okay. And Mexico was in the midst of a civil war. So they were like, we're kind of fighting amongst ourselves right now. So we don't know if we can do this or not, So to align with the U.S. was kind of, to be against the U.S. was kind of a bad deal. And then the U.S. found out about the telegram through British intelligence.
Yeah.
And then U.S. citizens were upset about it. So what does the U.S. do? They look at Carranza and they legitimize him as the Mexican president.
Oh, so it backfired.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. This was some sort of like a Hail Mary.
Yeah, it was a Hail Mary by the Germans,
Okay.
yeah. So they're in the midst of a civil war. Plus, the U.S. was a lot stronger militarily than Mexico.
Obviously.
Even if Mexico was united, they were like, I don't think we can really beat them, right? And the other thing that made them kind of say, I don't think we should do this, was that Germany had offered to stabilize the Mexican National Bank with gold, and they never came through with the gold. They were very short on how much money they were really, or how much gold they were supplying. So they were like, we can't even trust them with the amount of gold that they have supplied. What makes you think that we can trust that they're going to keep their word if they do win?
See, exactly. And they didn't even have the resources.
That's right.
That's why they sent a letter.
That's why he's interested.
Like, yeah. What do we have? Paper?
Yeah, paper.
We have ink? How many stamps do we have? So it's cheaper if it goes through the other.
They should have sent some strudels.
Yeah. Can we not send it direct? Are we? Do we? No, we don't. Okay, just make a code. They won't find out.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Let's send them some schnitzel and red onion, and they're like, "Nah, we're good. We have tacos."
Yeah. German food.
Yeah, it's actually pretty good. Oh, and in the telegram, they were saying if you decide that you want to do this, then we can negotiate through Japan. You talk to Japan. Japan will talk, and we'll make all our deals through Japan, like as a third party. Japan found out about the telegram and said, no, we're allies with the U.S. This is World War I.
Back then.
We're allied with the U.S. We're not part of this, right? So the U.S. eventually joins World War I, and it has to do with them bombing the merchant ships. That they finally say, okay, we have to make this the biggest war so that there's no more war after this. And that's where it got the nickname the Great War.
Yeah.
I believe it was President Woodrow Wilson. Now, Mexico had a good relationship with Germany, and the U.S. did too up until this started happening. The Germans knew that they were going to be in trouble with the U.S. and they needed Mexico. But in 1936 through 1939, the Spanish Civil War happened, and Mexico started losing its relationship with Germany. This is 39 to 36 because Mexico was for the Republicans and the Germans were for the nationalists. And so all this conflict started happening in Spain.
And a lot of people from Spain came over too.
That's right. And the Spanish came over. What Mexico did is, this is something that was very impressive. Mexico actually stood up against Germany before the other countries did.
A huevo.
Yeah, it was like the Mexican president was like, yeah. Mexico was like, hey, this isn't right. This isn't right. They were against Italy invading Ethiopia, and they spoke out about it before. Because if you look at the different powers, Ethiopia is part of the Allies.
Okay.
You say Ethiopia, like that's weird, right? Well, Italy invaded Ethiopia. And when that happened, Mexico spoke out against it. So what Mexico did is they said, we're a refuge for any of those citizens that need to escape. We'll recognize their citizenship in our country.
And we needed workforce.
But they came over and they had a place. So Mexico's relationship started going south with Germany. And this is what we were really talking about when we were having tacos the other night, was that Mexico ended up entering the Second World War.
Just a little
tiptoe, bit. Yeah. But they did it as part of the Allies, right? And the reason they did it was because a lot of people don't know, but a lot of the petroleum that was going to England was coming from Mexico. They were supplying the Second World War's fuel needs. And so they were shipping fuel to England. And of course, the German U-boats were sinking Mexican merchant ships.
Do not mess with my barcos because I get loco.
Yeah. and it became a thing where Mexico ended up declaring war on Germany as well. And of course, they weren't prepared to go to war, but they went in with the Allies and they made some sacrifices as well. So
Escuadrón 201.
Yeah. No sé mucho de ellos.
I know just a little bit. I just know that some of those boys, because they were boys, died during training because this was modern warfare. By then. We were all like just guns and.
Yeah, Mexico was still. When I was reading the info, it was saying that Mexico was still largely agricultural.
Yeah.
So you had a lot of farm boys that were working in the fields that were now having to get caught up on modern warfare. So that's why Mexico, it was more of a matter of principle that they said, hey, this isn't right, the tyranny. But what was really amazing was that they stood up and said something long before World War II happened. They said, this isn't right. You guys shouldn't be invading other countries. You shouldn't be treading on sovereign nations. And they spoke out, and other countries like they spoke out when Germany went into Austria. They did a formal speech and said, hey, a declaration against that action. So that's something that I thought was the shit. I never learned about this, and I think it's badass. So kudos to Mexico.
Yeah, and sorry for all of those who had to die with all. I bet how many people will have to be on that specific boat to get all the oil to England.
That's right.
We're talking like many ships, hundreds of lives, innocent lives. It's like these guys, I bet they weren't even armed or anything. It's like, we're neutral. We're just going to.
They're merchants.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're.
We're not soldiers.
Yeah, they're and they did that to the U.S. Merchant Marines too. There was a story about how they sunk a ship outside the coast of Connecticut, Massachusetts, and for a long time, the U.S. had hidden the fact that it was a U-boat that sank them because they thought that U-boat had nuclear capabilities, and they didn't want everybody to panic, thinking that this German submarine right off the coast that has nuclear capabilities.
Okay.
So they kept it a secret. They said it was an accident for 50 years, and then it gets declassified. That happens a lot. I think it still happens today with alien sightings and stuff like that. They're not going to tell us what's really happening because you can't panic. Another thing, sticking to that, is in Japan. When Japan attacks Pearl Harbor, Mexico makes a formal declaration against Japan as well, as an ally of the United States. So, Mexico, we love you. Thank you, guys. And you had your chance to get Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona back. You didn't want it. So
maybe California.
Maybe California. So I don't want to hear about it next time I go to Mexico. But that wraps us up for this episode of the Shit Podcast. Mendicuti, thank you for joining me, man.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's been a pleasure. I'm glad you were in town from Querétaro, visiting us here in Ciudad Juárez, and hope to have you back soon, man.
I will come back. I have so much stuff left to eat.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, we're part of the same club.
Yeah, Bernardito, te amo. Your ribeye hamburger.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
We'll do it again. But that wraps. Where can people find you on your social media?
At Lopez Mendicuti. I have just like 3 social media outlets: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. That's where and maybe you'll see something next year. Hopefully.
Cool.
We kind of
There's a project on the wraps, but he's here doing some research for the project.
And eating for the projects.
Awesome.
I need the energy.
Well, thank you for being here. You can find me as Tu Amigo Sam on all our social media platforms, and you can find me as Está Cagado Podcast on podcast platforms. Please leave a message, subscribe, leave your comments. We thank you guys. I know that a lot of you guys are in Mexico listening to this podcast, so we really appreciate you guys tuning in, even though it's not your first language.
Yeah, just try it. I played Pokemon, and here I am. It works.
It works.
Yeah, don't get mad, Dad. It was like English classes for me.
So. That's awesome. But that wraps us up. Thank you. We'll catch you guys on the next one.